Welcome, NFL football fans. It's that time again. Time for another edition of NFL Football Talk. This is an Inside Sports production. I'm your host, Charles E. Smith, Jr., and here we are all the way up to Week 4 of the NFL season. We've got 5 undefeated teams left. We're going to go ahead and break it down. This is the picks segment here. We're going to just pick more of the 3 most intriguing games and also start a new segment, which is our Gambler's Delight special. You'll make sure you want to see that. So as you know, I do not work alone here. I enlist the help of the very, very best. And when we're picking games and also, like I said, getting that Gambler's Delight special going, who better than a Jersey guy, a proud Rutgers graduate from somewhere in an undisclosed location in beautiful Southern California. Many of you already follow him on Twitter at Chris L Sports. Here he is, none other than the inimitable Chris Lardieri. Chris, what's happening out there, man?
Charles, great to be back. Thanks again for a tremendous intro. After last week, I really appreciate you having me back after having the big 0 for 3 on my quote-unquote expert picks. I will disclose I did not throw a temper tantrum on the sideline. There were no tears. I didn't punch a punting net. I took it in stride.
Okay, and then just full disclosure here, the 3 games we picked last week, Cincinnati and Denver, and then Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and the New York Giants and Washington. We both picked, we agreed with the New York Giants and on Pittsburgh. We did differ on Cincinnati and Denver, so that is the one that I got. So I was 1-2, which is nothing to brag about, but Mr. Lardieri was 0-3 last week. One thing that I talk about, though, the Cincinnati Bengals, and they beat the Dolphins tonight. It's 22-7, I believe the final score was, but should have had a lot more points. A.J. Green, 10 catches, 173 yards, and a touchdown, but they had to kick 5 field goals. 5 field goals. Now, you always want to get a win, but 5 field goals means you're not getting it done in the red zone.
Yeah, absolutely not. Not a good sign for the Bengals, especially considering the Dolphins have really struggled this year as well. And listen, you hit on it the last 2 weeks. They miss Mohamed Sanu and Marvin Jones. I mean, A.J. Green's a great receiver, right, but you take him out of the game, that offense clearly sputters.
Yep, there we go. And, of course, it'll be fun in Week 5 when Andy Dalton and those Bengals return to Dallas, where, Dalton played his college ball at TCU, so they'll be taking on the Cowboys in Week 5, and we'll be sure to break that one down when it comes up. But let's talk a little bit about, before we get into this week's picks, we still got the undefeated teams, New England Patriots, who just keep on rolling, the Baltimore Ravens, the Denver Broncos, and then in the NFC, biggest surprises, though, Minnesota at 3-0 without their quarterback and their star running back, and then Philadelphia starting a rookie quarterback at 3-0, and they just destroyed the Steelers last weekend.
Very impressive win, and I think now a lot of people are realizing that Carson Wentz is a legit NFL quarterback, and secondarily kind of flying below the radar is the great job that Doug Peterson's done already as head coach and prepping a rookie quarterback. You would never know this was Chip Kelly's team last year. It looks like it's completely turned over, and other than Wentz, it really hasn't. So he's a disciple of Andy Reid, but he's been doing a nice job.
And, the other thing about, I always liked Doug Peterson. I remember when he backed up Dan Marino in Miami many years ago. But, when you look at the gray hair and everything and just the classic square-jawed, handsome, middle-aged dude, couldn't you see Doug Peterson, if he wasn't coaching, he could make a fortune doing Viagra commercials, don't you think?
Yes, the ones that I have to pause or fast-forward through. My kids are around at 2 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, yes.
All righty, so let's go ahead and get into this week's games. But before we do, Mr. Lardieri, I always give you a little chance to say something about what's going on. And as everyone can see, I'm wearing the Team USA hat. We're in an election year and also unrest in the country, so I'll probably be wearing this throughout the whole season here. But Mr. Lardieri, what do you have for us?
A couple things. The presidential debates Monday, I won't touch that with a 200-foot pole, but I found it interesting at just how utterly it trounced Monday Night Football in the ratings, which was a shootout, and some of us that play fantasy football were interested for the implications. But begs the question, considering debate number 2 happens on Sunday Night Football in a couple weeks, Giants-Packers, two popular teams TV-wise. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the ratings there. And then just the news coming out tonight, J.J. Watt looks like he rushed back from back surgery. You know, guy's a warrior. He wants to play, but this is another trend, and we saw it with Russell Wilson Sunday in Seattle. You're paying your stars big money. You can't. Sometimes I don't know if you got to babysit them or what, but it's millions and millions of dollars, and the team has an investment, and it looks like Watt's going to be done for the year. So now the theories will be out there. Was he rushed back? Did he ignore his doctors? Remains to be seen.
Yeah, that's true. And then, you know, while we're at that with players, one intriguing thing I want to throw out there to you before we get into the picks here, quarterbacks. Now, if we look at the situation with Chicago, Jay Cutler is out, and in Dallas we have Tony Romo out, but we look at the backups there. Now, it's one thing in Chicago, which is kind of basically a complete mess, but at what point do they realize they can go 6-10 or 7-9 without paying Jay Cutler $20 million a year and just cut him loose? And then also in Dallas, with Dak Prescott clearly being the future of the team and Romo maybe having 2 seasons left if they're lucky, if he can stay healthy, is it time for Jerry Jones to maybe make a shrewd move and dangle Romo out there somehow to a team that may need a quarterback? That way it would put Dallas in that same situation as kind of Seattle was the first few years when they made it to the Super Bowl. He can use that extra cap money to maybe get some players around Prescott and take advantage of this window before maybe they have to give Prescott a big raise.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, you know, you look at what's happened in Indy now that Andrew Luck's first contract is up and he's gotten signed a huge deal. They can't surround him with any talent. They're hamstrung by that cap number. So I think that's very legitimate. The one team that didn't do that, ironically, is the Patriots. You know, Tom Brady, say what you want about him. To his credit, he's taken less money. He's restructured his deal in order to keep a lot of his teammates in place around him. And I think you could easily see Romo and Cutler out on the street next year if things continue the way they do. And secondly, I love the mentality, well, this is Romo's job, and he got hurt and this and that. Well, let me ask you something. In 2001, when Drew Bledsoe got drilled by Bo Lewis and he became healthy again, you really think Belichick was going to put him back in or worry about who his starter was? And I think history speaks for itself there with Tom Brady keeping the job.
Yeah, most definitely. So we'll see how that all shakes out. Let's go ahead and get into this week's games. And first game, and 2 surprises here. We got the Carolina Panthers sitting at 1-2, going against the Atlanta Falcons, a big NFC South duel. Falcons now at 2-1. The Falcons' number 1 ranked offense, and Carolina still just something is missing. Is it a losing Super Bowl hangover or what? And also, I just wonder if Cam Newton sacked 8 times last week. You can blame the offensive line if you want, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. I just got to wonder just how tough he is. And we saw him in that Super Bowl. He could have fallen on that fumble. He elects not to go for it. And as Mr. Lardieri, we were talking off air a few days ago, and you said maybe that was his phantom sack, which is what happened to Jim Everett in 1989 in that NFC Championship game up in the Bay Area, and he was never the same quarterback. So Cam Newton is not the same guy this year that we saw last year. So go ahead and pick this one for me. How do you see this?
I agree with everything you said, but I'm going to go a little contrarian here. I'm going to pick the Panthers.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem with Jonathan Stewart out, I mean, you've got Fozzie Whitaker and Payne as the running backs really don't put any fear in the heart of opposing defenses, so that doesn't help. And also, let's face it, the Panthers in their first 3 weeks have played the 2 best defenses in football, in my opinion, the Broncos and the Vikings. So you got to give the D some credit there. Those are not easy teams to throw the ball against, never mind run. The Falcons, impressive, 2-1, but show me what you got in November and December. This team notoriously fades, and frankly, they paid 3 teams with atrocious defenses, especially against the pass. I don't think they're going to. Matty Ice, your boy, your favorite quarterback in the NFL, is going to light up the Panthers D. I know Atlanta beat them late in the year when the Panthers were undefeated. I don't see it happening this year. I think Panthers are a winning team. Riverboat Ron turns them around. I don't know if he's got to light another fire under Cam, but I think it'll be closer than people expect, but I'm going Carolina.
Yeah, and you know what? For all those reasons, really, and Carolina has to have this game. They can't fall to 1-3 to start off the season. or the pressure is going to start. The whispers are going to begin. This is their get-right game here, and I like them to go. And this is going to be an entertaining matchup, but I'm going to go with Carolina also to take down Atlanta, get to 2-2, and at least calm the natives for the time being.
Yeah, and if they do lose, I guess Cam has to bring the dab back, right? That's what clinched it last year, that record, right?
Yep, that's true. That's true. So let's go ahead and move on. Kansas City Chiefs sitting at 2-1, playing the Steelers. The Steelers got trounced by the Eagles last week, but this will be the debut for running back Le'Veon Bell for the Steelers in Pittsburgh. So with this game, I'm looking at KC, I'm looking at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is really the only team. They're one of two teams I think is going to make it to the Super Bowl from the AFC. I think it'll be either them or the Patriots. I think the Steelers get right after that fiasco in Philadelphia. For some reason, they can't win in Philly. Haven't won there since 1965. But the Steelers get right this week, and I think they take care of business against the Chiefs. I'm going with the Steelers in this one.
I completely agree. I can't see a Mike Tomlin coach team throwing 2 duds in a row. On top of that, the return of Bell's going to help, and Chiefs with a nice win last week, but let's face it, was that a Chiefs win or a Ryan Fitzpatrick choke job, loss, whatever the case may be?
6 interceptions?
And I think, yeah, and I like the Chiefs defense and all, but when the ball's thrown to you, you should intercept it. But I think the offense gets back on track. I do like the Chiefs secondary, but they've got so many more options now. D'Angelo Williams did a really nice job filling in for Bell, but Bell's a stud. He's playing for that new contract, and I'm going Steelers.
Yeah, there you go. So Steelers all the way on that one. Then the third game we're going to pick, and this should be a doozy here. New York Giants at Minnesota. This is going to be the Monday night game. So the Giants with that tough loss to Washington last week, and Minnesota taking care of business against Carolina. So you got, and like you said, one of the 2 best defensive possibly in the league right now going against the Giants. This is tough. I think with Shane Vereen going down for the Giants and this week, that's going to affect the run game some, and I think that the Minnesota Vikings are going to be able to unleash the beast. So I see the Vikings, really, they're going to stay undefeated. I like the Vikings winning, beating the New York Giants.
I'm going to agree with you in a rare, interesting Monday night matchup where we'll have to endure 3+ hours of John Gruden. If you look at the pressure the Vikings put on Cam Newton, and the Panthers have an excellent O-line. The Giants' line's one of their weaknesses. I really fear for Eli. Like you hit the nail on the head with no running game. Even if Jennings does play, he's banged up. I really think their offense is in a lot of trouble. You key on Beckham, Sterling Shepard's good, but the Vikings have an excellent secondary to go with that pass rush. And then on the flip side, it's not like the Vikings are going to run the ball, but Sam Bradford just seems to fit in this North Turner offense. Got to give the guy credit. He's not a head coach, but he's an excellent coordinator and quarterback guru, and probably won't be the most exciting game, but I could see a low-scoring affair with the Vikings pulling it out. And for those of you fantasy players there, indoor stadium, not a lot of touchdowns. I'd like the kickers on either team Monday night.
Okay, so there we go. Those are the 3 games. So just to recap here, we're both taking Carolina to get right and get back to 500. Carolina over Atlanta. We both think that Pittsburgh, with the debut of Le'Veon Bell, they're going to take care of business against the Kansas City Chiefs. And we're both taking Minnesota to get to 4-0 on the season, despite the absence of Adrian Peterson, and take care of the business against the Giants on Monday night. Now, just in case any of you happen to be there in Vegas this weekend, just want to give you a little bit of tip. And remember, we do not hold you responsible for any of your losses or anything, but our Gambler's Delight pick right now. So if you had a little bit of money that was burning a hole in your pocket, Mr. Lardieri, we got all the point spreads, we got over-unders. What's the game? What is the one thing that you would go ahead and put your money on where you're standing there at the sports book in Vegas and saying, you know what, I got to throw this 100 on something?
Sure. Full disclosure, I would only do this if I was in the state of Nevada. I will not be doing it in the state of California. Right. That said, there are a couple interesting matchups out there looking at the point spread and over-unders. I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints traveling to San Diego. Depends on where you look at what book. If you can get them getting 4 points, more power to you. 3.5 do it. Some are as low as 3. I don't know if I do that. Reason being, this will be the third head-to-head matchup between Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers. Brees, the Chargers let him go and kept Rivers once upon a time, and the alleged genius Nick Saban passed on him at Miami, and the Saints were all the better for signing him. Brees is 2-0 against Rivers head-to-head lifetime. This game will feature little or no defense. I think the over is something like 53.5. I wouldn't be surprised if they hit 75 points between the two of them. But for whatever reason, Brees just loves playing against this team, and I know they had an atrocious performance on Monday night. But the end of the day, even if the Saints don't win, I think it could be close. A field goal could easily decide it. And like horse racing, you bet on the jockey. I'll take my chances with Sean Payton over Mike McCoy. What do you think?
Okay, so you would say to go ahead and take the Saints and that juicy 3.5 points, correct?
Correct. If you get 4, more power to you. But yeah, like them getting anything over 3 points. Okay. I think the very least they'll lose a close game.
All right, fantastic. And were I in the state of Nevada, where betting on sports is legal, and I was at a sports book, I would go ahead and play the over with this Carolina-Atlanta game, because we know Atlanta doesn't have great defense, and we got them. Carolina likes to go to the air. I think that the situation is perfect here. There's going to be a lot of points. Play the over. Over-unders at 50, even if it's 50.5 or 51. Go ahead, play the over on this game, and you can thank me later.
Well, here's hoping that our money picks are actually better than our last week's picks. That's all I could say, fans.
Okay. All right, everybody. So remember, you can follow me on Twitter at @TheInsideSports. Follow Mr. Lardieri on Twitter at ChrisLSports. And Chris, before we sign off here, any final words for the football-loving public out there?
Yeah, they say everything old is new again. A few years ago, you had a gem on this show when Roger Goodell went into his usual annual hiding, and you had the milk carton with his picture on it. Where's Roger? We have not seen or heard from this guy, and this is the longest amount of time. I'm getting concerned for his well-being. It's really interesting with all the Deflategate issues, right, concussions, everything that's going on. This guy hasn't shown face. I don't know if he just got the heck boot out of him at the Cowboys-Rams preseason game, but this is the longest period of time we haven't seen him. So I don't know, either that or maybe he's laying low until after the election. What do you think?
Yeah. We shall see. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. More on Roger Goodell next week. I'm Charles E. Smith, Jr., and for Mr. Chris Lardieri, the show is NFL Football Talk. This is an Inside Sports production. Enjoy the games, and we will see everyone next week.